Welcome to our webcast about the muscular system. There are three functions of the muscular system. The primary function is to allow our body to move, both inside and outside the body. Almost all movement of the body is the result of muscle contractions. In fact, it takes 200 muscles in our bodies to take just one step. There are muscles that help with digestion, circulation of blood, and voluntary movements. The muscular system is also responsible for maintaining our posture and body shape. Without muscles, our bones would not be able to stand up or move in any way. Therefore, the muscles are very important to stabilizing bones and supporting bone joints. The third and final function of the muscular system is to generate body heat. 85% of the heat in our body is the product of muscle contractions. When your body is cold, the muscles will involuntarily contract, producing heat and warming up the body. Now here's some basic vocabulary about the muscular system. So myology is the study of structure, arrangement, and actions of muscles. Isotonic contractions are contractions where the muscle length changes, whereas isometric activity are contractions where muscle length does not change. Muscle fiber is tiny fibers of muscle that bunch together and contract. Myofibrils are one of the elongated contractile fibers found within striated muscle cells, which you can see on this diagram here. The sarcomeres are the structural and functional unit of a myofibril, which are shown here into their little units. Some more vocab about the skeletal muscle. The endomysium is the sheath of connective tissue that surrounds an individual skeletal muscle fiber. So you can see that right here around the bone. Epimysium is the covering of muscle, connective tissue sheath surrounding each muscle, which you can see right here is the red part. And the perimysium is the sheath of connective tissue that encloses a bundle of skeletal muscle fibers, which you can see right here between the epimysium and the endomysium. For the basic vocabulary about joints, the tendon is the cord of connective tissue that attaches muscle to bone, which you can see right here, and it's attaching to the bone. And the ligament is the tough, flexible, fibrous tissue that connects two bones or cartilages, which you can see right here. So it goes to the tendon and then the ligament. And then the extensor is a muscle that straightens a joint. And then the flexor is a muscle that bends a joint.
Okay, so there are three types of muscle tissue. The first one we're going to talk about is called smooth or visceral. Like the name suggests, the muscle is found on the walls of visceral organs. These organs include the small intestine, the stomach, the bladder, the digestive system. Muscles move involuntarily, which means non-striated. They don't, which leads them to appear smooth, unlike the other two types of muscle with a central nucleus. As you can see in the picture, the sides of the muscle tissues are tapered at the side, and there's a single nucleus in the middle. The next type of muscle tissue is the walls of the heart. Involuntary blood through the smooth muscles also can take inter connect each cell. These days, adjacent cells together and allow the cells to help travel. What's unique about the muscles of the heart is the individual never into the other types of large amount of mitochondria within the cardiac muscle tissues. 35% cardiac muscle mitochondria perform cellular respiration, breaks down nutrients, ATP energy. This large amount of mitochondria allows the cardiac muscle to constantly function and never have the need to rest. The last muscle tissue is called skeleton. These are all the muscles you think of when you hear the word muscle. Those muscles attached to bones and do many of the other physical activities that we do in our lives. Unlike the other two types of stimulated by nerve impulses that travel through the nervous system. Unlike the cardiac muscles, a mitochondria. They must have an alternate energy to function. This energy glycogen is different structurally nuclei on the edges of the cell.
Okay, because there are tons of muscles in the body, scientists have created a sort of naming system to make it easier to locate and remember all of the muscles. Each muscle is named based on many different factors, including location, size, shape, direction, origins, and action. Many receive their name based on their anatomical origin. If a muscle has abdominis in its name, it can be found around the abdominal region. Location can also be based on what bone the muscle is attached to. Can you guess where the tibialis anterior is located? Yep, on the anterior portion of the tibia. We also classify muscles by their shape, size, and direction. Deltoids, for example, have a triangular shape. For size, there are three muscles within the gluteal region, each defined by their size. We have the gluteus maximus, the largest, the gluteus minimus, the smallest, and the gluteus medius, the mid-sized one. And if a muscle is defined by its direction, it is talking about how the muscle fibers run within. So, for example, the muscles running transversely left to right in the abdominal region are the transverse abdominis. Finally, muscles can be named due to their function. Flexors flex a muscle, abductors abduct a muscle, and adductors adduct a muscle. There exist many more naming categorizations than these, but this just gives you an idea of the naming process. Now we will discuss the simple basics on how a muscle contracts and relaxes. The nervous system plays a large role in how and when a muscle moves. The sequence of events leading to contraction is initiated somewhere in the central nervous system, either as a voluntary activity from the brain or as a reflex activity from the spinal cord. First, a signal is sent from the brain or the spinal cord to the muscle via motor neurons. What happens next is sort of confusing unless you have an extensive background in neuroscience and chemistry, so I will only briefly describe it. You don't need to know the details at all. The main act that causes the muscle to contract is an action potential, or electrical signal sent by neurons. This action potential releases calcium and other various neurotransmitters, which is what is mainly responsible for a muscle to contract. Okay, so here's a fun fact. You've all probably been running or exercising and felt a cramp or stitch in your side. Have you ever wondered what causes it to occur? Well, it is due to an imbalance of blood electrolytes such as calcium, potassium, and sodium in your body. The muscles, due to heightened activity, have been overstimulated, resulting in either too much or too little calcium released, or other electrolytes. The cramps usually pass when your body has compensated for the imbalance and returned to a new homeostasis.
So the picture right here is just a broad overview of the muscular system and how it maintains homeostasis, and just the general mechanisms I'm talking about. Most of the muscular system relies on a negative feedback mechanism because they maintain like a certain level of like normal temperature or like a baseline, and if it moves away from the baseline, then these stuff kick in. So like the stimulus triggers the receptors, where the control center or the set point where the change is compared to a set point, and then the effectors, i.e. the muscles or glands, in our case it's muscles because it's a muscular system, kick in and the response changes whatever happened back to its baseline. So the first part of homeostasis as far as the muscular system is concerned is temperature, and the regulation of body temperature comes with shivering. So when it's cold, shivering starts to heat you up, but that shivering comes from your muscles. Muscles generate heat, which then causes the shivering to stop. Metabolism also gives off heat, and that works essentially that way. So that's how shivering works. And just as a side note, this like table here like mentions vasodilation, which is another part of the muscular system because the heart is a part of the muscular system, and shivering, but other things like sweating or stretching out and curling up and that sort of thing, like that can involve the muscular system, but that's not the focus. So for example, stretching out or curling up, in order to curl up, you have to use your muscles, but it's more of a voluntary rather than an involuntary thing. So then as far as vasodilation, vasoconstriction goes, the cardiac muscle helps maintain homeostasis with fueling the body and blood flow. When you exercise, you need more oxygen, so it pumps faster, and when you cool down, you need to take it down a notch, so it slows down. So basically, homeostasis comes from maintaining temperature and fueling the blood flow. Now let's talk a little bit
about the medical problems that arise from the muscular system. So myopathy is the general term that refers to any muscle disease, and dystrophy is a specific type of like myopathy, and like people often get those two things confused. Here's a diagram of what it looks like to have dystrophy versus not having any dystrophy, and you can see like the fibers and all are much smaller because you have weaker muscles. But there are a lot of different types of illnesses. So there's myopathy, which is polymyosis, which makes progressive weakening of the skeletal muscles. As we mentioned earlier, skeletal muscles are those involuntary movements, not involuntary, sorry. There's also myopathy, a skin rash. And then there's also inclusion body mitosis, which is progressive muscle weakness and wasting. So then finally there's stuff like muscular dystrophies, which are another common type of disorder. They affect the muscle fibers and they interfere with chemical reactions involving drawing energy from food, which is why they become so thin. Metabolic muscle disorder appears at birth or infancy often, and it causes a problem with the muscle, a problem with the nerve that stimulates the muscle, or a problem in the brain. And then the final aspect of medical problem is stuff that comes from a neuromuscular junction. So as we mentioned earlier, you require the trigger of like the potassium sodium pumps in order for you to have a reaction or neuroreceptors. But if there's an issue with the neuroreceptor, then the signal isn't transferred and you can't control the muscles as well. So that's the other type of medical problem that can arise from the muscular system. We thank you for watching this and hope you learn more about the muscular system. Bye!